What's up, everybody? We have Zoom jams in the background right now.
Well,
Can you guys hear that?
meeting. The
Zoom.
and I didn't realize it was going to be on camera. I thought it was
Right, there we go. I muted. Perfect. Yeah, this is the Zoom music. Maddie K in the house. Jennifer Whaley. What? Long time.
Oh, there we go.
Hey. Sorry, my energy is a little bit too high today because I have two 12-year-olds running a camp outside for 6-year-olds, and my wife's running around chasing them. So in and out of that. We're gonna get started in just a couple of minutes because there's usually about half the people that are up to 5 minutes late. So we want to give them time. Cheryl Stray coming in. Perfect. So go ahead and just drop something real quick in the chat. Just say where you're from and welcome. Some of you guys might be in the same market, some different markets. If you're in different markets, you can pass referrals to one another. We had one of our BDM masterminds yesterday in our who, and in the past week, there were 2 referrals passed that signed new doors. So take the opportunity and let people know where you're from, and you guys can pass some referrals to each other. Jennifer Whaley from Atlanta. Gosh, some good people. All right, High Evolved, Nevada. Great. Las Vegas. Yeah. You got a new team coming your way, don't you, Matt?
I do. There's all kinds of things going on over here.
Who is it? Is it the formerly Oakland Athletics that were just announced, or are they already there?
They have not. They're coming. They're building them a big fancy stadium on the Strip. So Raiders, Golden Knights, and Athletics will all be within a half mile of each other, pretty much on the Strip.
I noticed that you left out the Las Vegas Aces, Matt.
They're further down, but yeah, they're down the road further.
Well, I'm glad you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, of course. Champions.
Yeah.
They've been talking about NBA also on the other end of the Strip. Hasn't come to fruition yet. That would be fun.
Yeah. Good. All right, cool. We can get started, and then whoever else is going to decide to come in late can come in late. But we are going to get started with this. You should be on. I'm trying to see where my head is going to be if I want to reduce that. All right, give me a second. Just doing my little formatting so that I am over there. Okay, and that the screen is over here. It's really cool the way that Zoom can do these layouts for sharing now. And you guys will see what I mean here in one sec. Okay, cool. And all right. So you should see a little me down here, right? A little me. But
Yep.
you get to see the main features. Okay, am I pointing to the right, in the right direction here?
No.
no,
Okay.
the other side.
Yes.
See the good stuff over here. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for jumping on. We're gonna be an hour or less today. I'm gonna be very respectful with your time, but we are going to cover the right things when it comes to KPIs, what you're tracking, what you're not tracking, why to track it, why it matters, and we're gonna do it in a very simple way. What we say here is how to stop the bleed and start scaling with data that matters. most companies, my company, my property management company previously, same thing. We weren't tracking the right numbers and we weren't able to make good decisions, right? I mean, because you have to have good information to make good decisions, but it's hard to get started. So that's why we are doing this today. All right. So, um, many of you know me, but if you don't, just a little bit about me. I'm a coach and consultant. Been doing that for over a decade. I love it, if you ask me. My favorite part of what I do as owner of Better Who, it is the coaching aspect, one-on-one and group coaching. I absolutely love it. Property manager, just like you, owned a property management company for 20 years. We scaled it to multiple states and then sold it. Co-owner and head geek at Better Who. I talk a lot about AI in the industry, but more so, I really care about efficient operations. And it just so happens that AI is a great tool for that. Claim to fame, I went from 0 to 350 doors in 2 years. I'll actually be speaking on the main stage at the upcoming NARPM National to go over that presentation. So it's called Steal My Playbook, and I'll be going over how I did go from 0 to 350 doors. I sold real estate as well, sold a lot of homes. Fun fact, I'm a retired nut boy at Disney World. So if you have been to Disney World and seen the vendors selling cinnamon glazed almonds and pecans, that was me. And we had a song that went with that. And I'm not going to sing that for you right now, but if you send me a kind email, I might send you an audio of that if you care. Speaker in the PM industry, and only thing that makes me different from you guys is I just made more mistakes and been in the trenches, right? So, all right. So let's talk about making data-driven decisions and the fact that if you're not measuring something, if you're not measuring the right things, then it's draining your profits. Quick question. Anyone can answer. Did the screen just get smaller of what I was sharing over here because I just made it smaller on my screen? Yeah.
Mhm.
It did? Okay, so it is smaller. Just give me one sec here. And right. I just want to get that back. And is that back to normal size-ish?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So yeah, what you're not measuring is draining your profits, right? I mean, in a bunch of different ways, lost efficiency, not having accountability, your team not having accountability. Also, if your team doesn't know what success looks like what is the measuring stick, they're not going to be as motivated to hit the results, to work hard, right? We want to get buy-in from our team and we want to celebrate when we hit certain milestones, but more importantly, we want to make data-driven decisions. So go ahead and drop in the chat here so that I know where you guys are right now. How confident are you in your KPIs? So a KPI, if you don't know, is a key performing indicator. If you don't know what a KPI is, you might not have any. If you feel really strong, if you feel confident about your KPIs and you're tracking them and measuring them, great. If you're kind of guessing at them, like that's a lot of people. If you're not tracking them, that's a lot of folks anyway. But most people fall in the last one. I don't have any. And that's okay, right? I mean, because we are all somewhere in our business. And, truth is, you're probably doing a lot of other things really well. And you just don't have the KPI. So it just needs time. So loosely confident. Okay, what's track? Good, James, we're going to cover that. Needs improvement. Jennifer, you'll get that. Nicole and Evolve. Great job. being confident in what you guys have there. So perfect. Great. So tracking more doesn't make you smarter. What I mean by that is, you know, people when they implement a KPI, they tend to get overwhelmed about what they need to be tracking. And if your team is not used to tracking things, and then you give them 5 or 6 numbers that they have to start tracking, and they don't know why, and they don't know where to get the information, and it's just a lot, then it's not going to do you what you're looking to get out of it. So for example, some bad KPIs like number of emails sent, number of units touched, like there's a lot of good things to track, but then a lot of things that you shouldn't track. So let's cover what you're going to learn. So, most property managers are tracking the wrong numbers. We're going to go over the clear method to clean up your KPIs if you have them in place. The top KPIs to track by category specifically. So here's the good news, and this is something everybody needs to hear, because as we go through this, I want you to pay attention to what I'm saying, and not as much on the slides and the details and the taking notes of certain things, because we're going to send out a replay of this with the slides. We want you to succeed. That's the goal, right? So the top KPIs to track by category, specific examples that you can steal. So we'll show you, open up our playbook a bit, and how you can take action today, how you can improve your business today and actually get a benefit from this. So KP what, right? So what are we talking about? We're talking about a key performance indicator. Why are we tracking it? Because we need to weigh ourselves daily. We need to know where are we going, and we have to have a system to track that. Everyone on your team should have specific KPIs, not necessarily to start if you haven't gotten started yet, but eventually that's where it should land. When do you cover these? In all meetings except the daily huddles. And these should be clear. So CLEAR, and I'm going to go over what that stands for. The real role of KPIs. So it's not just to see what's happening, right? It's not just to give you information. Information is great. Knowledge is powerful, but not taking action, not making decisions on that, that's where a lot of people fail. So you can track all the numbers you want, but if they're not providing you with the right information, or if you're not taking action, if you don't have the bandwidth to do that, then it's just going to hurt your business rather than help it. Peter Drucker, many of you have heard of him, right? He's Peter Drucker says you can't manage what you don't measure. But really what he's saying is, unless we determine what is measured and what is that yardstick, right? So how are we measuring it? Then it's not going to be seen, right? Nobody's going to pay attention to it. So I'll show you exactly what those KPIs should look like. If you're not measuring these numbers, and even if you are, look at these 4 pain points here and see if you are missing any of these, right? I mean, are you needing to improve your rent collection? Do you feel like you're wasting labor resource?
Stuff.
All right, somebody, here we go. You guys mute. Okay, there it is. Perfect. Wasted labor, lost clients, right? Churn and not knowing why their clients are leaving, and so you can't stop it if you don't know that information. Sloppy operations, like inefficiencies. We lose profit, right? There's 2 ways to look at profit. One, the first way is the old way, right? The proven method. You can either charge more for what you do or spend less, right? Income and expenses, profit. But the other side of profit has to do with your people and your processes. And KPIs have everything to do with that. You'll identify when you have the right KPIs in place, you'll be able to identify where your operations are sloppy, right? Where you're inefficient. And you'll also be able to identify the weak links on your team, right? The people that are holding you back. All right. So let's look at leading versus lagging. Okay. Leading indicators are predictive and lagging are historical. So churn, for example, that's a lagging indicator. So churn is not something that you need to measure. It's not something you need to report and review every week, but more so it shows you the historical data so that you can make decisions on your churn based on your churn. And then an example of a leading indicator would be response time, right? A bookkeeping mistake, right? Response time, mistakes caught on internal review, right? Something that is a predictive signal and a slow response, or too many touches. And then the end result of that is your churn. So the leading is the things that are happening, and the lagging ends up being the end result. So why does that matter? Because most teams are only tracking the results. They're just tracking the lagging. Churn, new doors added, those types of numbers. But you can't fix what you can't predict. Okay. So communication issues, response time, satisfaction surveys, these are all leading indicators. Number of touches to resolve a ticket. Okay. So let's look at clear KPIs now. First, clarity. Okay. Clarity is number one. We have to know, and our team has to know, what is this metric? What does it mean? Identify if it's a leading versus a lagging indicator. And we'll have more examples of these as we go. They need to be easy. If it's too complicated or too complicated to get, you really have to ask yourself, is this going to help move the business forward? Actionable versus trending. It kind of speaks for itself, but I didn't understand this concept when I was first learning and implementing KPIs. But actionable just means just how it sounds, right? It's something you can take action on and have a very quick effect. And then reduce to the essentials. Like I was saying before, a lot of companies will end up having a big, long list of KPIs that they sometimes track, sometimes don't do anything with. So the best way to view KPIs and to implement them is to really just get into the essentials, right? So clarity, here's an example. How many days does it take to close a work order? Okay. But do we know what counts as a day? What does closing out a work order mean to you? What is a work order? For example, a work order can just be a regular maintenance request. A work order can also be used in a make ready, or a make ready on a turn, or a make ready when you're getting a new door onboarded. And you may define that differently. Most companies we find do define that differently. So you have to be clear on what is that definition, and your team needs to be clear on that definition as well. And even a clear sounding KPI, it can become fuzzy if those terms aren't defined. So make sure that you define it. number of days to close a work order. Yes, there we go. What's a day? What status is closed? What's a work order? And then easy to find. Okay. Easy to find. A KPI should be simple to understand. It should be easy to find. If it requires, like a team of experts to try to figure out how do we determine this number? How do we get this number? Then it might be too complicated. Actionable versus trending. Okay. And we'll look at some examples of trending and actionable KPIs. But a trending KPI, think of it like, and hold on one sec here. Let me make sure I got mute on that one there and mute. Okay. If you guys don't have yourself muted, just go ahead and do that for me, please. Thank you. All right. So actionable fix, you can fix it this week. Trending, you watch it over time. So it's kind of like trending is kind of like watching your retirement account. It's helpful to know, right? But it doesn't guide your daily actions. I mean, if your retirement account fluctuations is guiding the way that you manage money in your family on a weekly basis, then you might want to reevaluate that, right? It's trending, it's over time. Examples of this: churn, direct labor efficiency ratio, DLER, if you're familiar with that term. Profitability, like these numbers, these are trending numbers. So why does that matter? Because teams waste time tracking things that kind of sound impressive, but they don't lead to making those decisions. So let's look at some of these trending, right? Churn, DLER, profitability, average days on market, lead conversion rate, and anything that is an average percentage or rate. And again, this is a lot of great information and it's wonderful for us to go over, but don't worry about taking down every single note here. I'm going to send out these slides afterwards. So trending KPIs, when to look at them? Well, it's about as often as you look at your retirement account, usually monthly. Why to look at them? Well, spotlight problems and areas for correction. So, for example, if your churn is too high, then, well, actually, let's talk lead conversion instead. If you are not converting a significant amount of your leads, right? If that number is off track, then there's things that you can do about it, right? And maybe it's the quality, and this is how you look at the data when you have it. Maybe it's the quality of the leads that you're getting. Well, it could also be the response time. It could be the follow-up. Maybe you're not doing as much follow-up as you need to. It could be the fact that the person who you have doing your BDM work doesn't care or isn't doing a good job. Maybe they're not strong in their scripts. And that's just one example of one number that matters, where there could be a bunch of different things that are affecting that number. And that's why we need to know that. Some examples of actionable: number of properties on the market longer than X days. So if your days on market are increasing right now, and it's summertime when the days on market should be lower, then this is something that's actionable. This is something that that you should definitely be taking action on if that number is getting higher. Number of security deposit dispositions older than a certain amount of days, right? These are very important metrics for our company, and you have to be tracking these so that you can make decisions. The number of urgent work orders that took more than X amount of days. If you find, and because what's that going to lead to? If your team's taking a long time to close out urgent work orders, to dispatch, your maintenance tech to urgent work orders, that's going to affect your tenant retention. It's going to affect possibly your owner churn, right? So these actionable KPIs will lead to things that make up your trending, right? So when to look at these: weekly, sometimes daily, but usually weekly. Why to look at them? So that you can make immediate correction, right? So here's an example of an old KPI, right? A KPI that doesn't work. The number of low priority work orders, right? Well, actually, hold on. This is something different here. So the number of low priority work orders in this example, right? The what we're looking for is under 2, but let's say you're actually averaging 9. Okay, why were they tracking? Wanted to see the aging work orders to get them closed out. I mean, this makes sense. You don't want to have a bunch of open work orders. Okay, well, why were they missing the goal? Waiting on others for access, parts, appointment, money. I mean, it could be for any number of reasons, but these are some possible reasons, right? Changed to an actionable KPI. The number of low priority work orders we did not send updates to last week. So if you're not able to change that number, right? And maybe it's because why they were missing the goal, right? They were waiting on others for access or parts or appointments. Maybe it's difficult to get those closed out and it's something that's outside of your control. Then you have to update the owners. So that's why this is a different number and what's changed. So a rule of thumb to change to get these to reduce to the essentials is to have just anywhere from 1 to 5 KPIs per person, no more than 25 throughout your organization. So we're going to look at if you don't have KPIs, these are your first 5 that you need to be tracking. And we're going to go over why, who should own them, because there should only be one person owning each KPI, unless it's something like Google reviews. If you have everyone on your team that is customer facing responsible for getting let's say 3 Google reviews per month, then they would each have one of those. There we go, on the mute. All right. Yeah, so let's look at the first one here. Work orders. Work orders open over 7 days, and you can fill in the blank for whatever your company number is. But this is a really good example of work orders open over 7 days. Well, remember, you have to define what an open work order is. Okay. So why? Well, it's a quick win to measure operational follow through. The owner of this, of course, should be the maintenance coordinator. The frequency, this should be reviewed weekly. And depending on the size of your company, if you have, let's say you're a larger company, maybe, 300 doors or more, and you have departmental meetings, then this should be reviewed at a minimum in a departmental meeting. It should also be reviewed at your leadership meeting when your maintenance coordinator reports it on there. The goal, right? You don't want to have any open work orders over 7 days. That would be the goal for this one. This is an actionable and a leading indicator. And then, use case, right? Flag delays in vendor coordination or internal follow-ups. So let's look at the second one here. Let me take a sip first. So the second Fast Five KPI that you should be starting within your company, if you don't have any, is days on market. So I was on a coaching call with a client who's tracking KPIs, but wasn't tracking days on market. What he had told me is, he said he didn't want to bring on any new doors because he had 14 properties on the market currently. And I was like, okay, well, how long have they been on the market for? And how does that compare to the rest of the market, right? Your competition. And you have a marketing package. So if someone buys the marketing package, how much faster do those get rented compared to the ones that don't have that marketing package? It's extremely valuable information. But again, back to the point now about him not wanting to take on new doors until those got rented, because I wanted to address that. Those are exclusive to each other, right? I mean, like, he shouldn't make a decision of not wanting to bring on new doors because his properties aren't getting leased, and he didn't know how many days on market his properties were. So you can't make decisions if you don't know. So why? It's one of the clearest indicators of leasing effectiveness and your marketing reach. It could also be a very good indicator if you're not doing weekly communication calls or emails or whatever the heck you do. I would always recommend doing a call to the owners of the status, right? Well, Mrs. Owner, we had 3 showings this week and we didn't get any applications in. Typically, when we experience this and we've been on the market for 3 weeks, historically, we are 10% overpriced. So we need to modify that pricing to get the property leased. And this is what we're seeing in today's market. So the information that you have is powerful. So we want to make sure our team has this information. The owner, marketing coordinator, right? You want to be under 30 days on this. It's a trending KPI. And of course, right, improve your pricing strategy, in pricing modifications, as we call it, not necessarily price improvements or price reductions. Listing visibility, photos. Third number, lease renewal rate percentage, right? So why? It directly correlates with client satisfaction and your operational stability. I speak to a lot of property managers who they want to be, their policy is to be 90 or 120 days out from the lease renewal, right? Contacting the owner and the tenant with 90 to 120 days before the lease expiration. But many aren't hitting that number. So what happens, right? I mean, you might get or that want to go month to month, but maybe you don't offer month to month. They don't have this on their radar. They don't have the renewal on their radar necessarily. But I mean, we all know resident retention starts with a strong lease renewal process. Who should own that? Leasing coordinator or property manager, certainly not the business owner. Monthly, over 80%. Trending and actionable is the type. And the use case to forecast your vacancy and your leasing workload, right? How many vendors am I going to need this upcoming month? Do we have enough vendors to do the make readies and turns, right? This is information that is going to help your operations. And of course, like we said, tracking client retention. The fourth key number here that you want to have in place is your delinquency rate. Surprisingly enough, many companies are not tracking their delinquency rate or communicating it to their teams. So why? It impacts cash flow and client trust, right? Leasing coordinator or the finance or bookkeeper should be tracking this. Monthly is when it should be reported. The goal is greater than 95% for your percent of rent collected on the due date. And it's a leading indicator, and it will help prioritize eviction filing, right? Turnover time, days from move out to rent ready. Now, this is a hard number, very difficult number for companies to get in line. But if every day counts when the property is vacant, right? I mean, every day counts for the client. So making sure that we hit these numbers, making sure that we have under 14 days for a make ready is going to improve the amount of revenue, the amount of ROI, because our clients, they don't necessarily care what we do or how we do it. The bottom line is they care about their ROI. Just like many clients that we work with, they don't necessarily care about like the process that we take them through or any of that stuff. What they care about is the value exchange, and the value exchange when we're investing money to work with someone is ROI, right? Um, Type is actionable. Use case, identify bottlenecks in your approvals, funding, or vendor delays, or more so in your process. There's a lot of process breaks that lead to, um, having, a 21-day turnaround. I know companies that have a 7-day move out to make ready number, which is outstanding. Here's some more examples, and these I'm not going to really go over, but what I want you to know is that I'm going to send these out to you. They're by category. So, percent of high priority work orders, right? Open work orders, first time fix rate. This is one that's becoming more popular. Actually, was just reading a Buildium blog the other day, and they were going over the top 10 maintenance KPIs. I think this was number 2. Unit turn time, right? Leasing. So here's some of those key numbers. We talked about days on market. You have your vacancy rate, month to month lease percentage. Now, if you don't offer month to month, which some months you might not. So summer months, you might have it in your lease where you don't allow month to month leases, and that's completely reasonable, right? A lot of companies do that. Your systems, right? Where your revenue slips through the cracks. This is where there's a lot of profit leaks. Owner onboarding cycle time. Oh man, I love this one. Look, you guys don't have to tell me because I already know the answer to this. How strong is your owner onboarding process? Your sales to onboarding handoff and that experience that that the client goes through. Now, you all may be knocking it out of the park, but I can tell you that is the number one pain point that I run into in with property management companies is having a bad process for owner onboarding. That's the number one issue. Owner onboarding error rate, owner statements sent late, owner statements with errors, right? I mean, like these things, they're important. They're the details. And when we're tracking these numbers, we're able to see what we need to fix. And then for your team, right? Are you building a machine or babysitting one? Are you building a self-managing team? That's what we do at Better Who. We help build self-managing teams. It's so important. Direct labor efficiency ratio. I mentioned this earlier. And the simple formula here is revenue generated per dollar of direct labor expense. So you don't calculate, if you pay a BDM, you don't calculate the BDM's payroll in there. Or if you have an operations manager, you don't calculate their number in there. And there's a benchmark study out there as well. I can send you a copy if you need it. Just put benchmark study in the chat, and I'll send that to you. That was the last one that was done, I think, a couple of years ago. And it has some key metrics and what they should be in your company. Staff training hours per month. I know most people aren't tracking that. There's better ways to train that we could talk about. 5-star Google review count. I mentioned that earlier. Sales. Most companies aren't tracking sales metrics. And sales goes all the way from the amount of leads to the amount of appointments to the amount of new doors and the conversion rate of those, right? Lead to appointment or appointment to new door. But it does go beyond that. There's customer acquisition cost. And even if you know how much it costs to acquire every new customer, well, do you know that by lead source? For example, it is typically a lot cheaper to get a new door from a realtor referral rather than spending money on ads or or any or buying leads through all property management or bigger pockets, right? And but if you have a tight process, a tight sales process, those might be good lead sources. All right. You A lot of companies will invest in SEO. They'll spend. I've worked with people who have spent $1,500 a month on someone to manage Google Ads, and then an additional $2,000 a month, right? So it's almost $3,500 a month to actually run the ads, to pay for the ads. So $3,500 a month, and they were doing this for 6 months before we met. And I asked them how many new doors they added from that, and they had no clue. And $3,500 times 6 months, 18 times 3, 21 grand, right? I mean, let's say they brought on one new door from that. Well, they spent $21,000 to generate that new door. This is why it is so important to know that number. Okay. At the same time, it's not the first number that you should be tracking if you're not tracking the other things. That's why we went through that Fast Five. Finance, how much you really keeping, right? Your revenue per unit. Revenue per unit is a great indicator. Benchmark is on, I think, somewhere around $250 revenue per unit. If you do know that number, and let's say it's under $200 revenue per unit, then a decision needs to be made, right? Do you want to charge more money for your services? Because under $200 per door is not great monetization, right? It's not, unless you're running extremely lean, it's not going to sustain you. It's not going to get you, you won't be in the business long term. Percentage of revenue from non-PM fees, that's great to know, if you're offering, just maintenance services or home watch, any other types of revenue streams, net profit, right? Or total owner compensation. And, many companies, especially smaller companies, if you're still working in the business, let's say you're doing the BDM related activities, you need to get paid for that. And if you're paying yourself and then plus your profitability, you put that together for your total owner comp. So what does this look like in action? All right. And maybe you can see these numbers and read this. Maybe you can't. It's okay. I'm going to send it to you. This is a real dashboard. I just removed the actual owner, the person's specific name, but this is just, it's a real dashboard. And the maintenance coordinator has 2 KPIs that they report on. On this one, the property manager has 3. It'll show what's weekly or what's monthly. This was built in a Notion template. We use Notion with our clients. The qualifier, right? Is it over a certain amount of days, or is it equal to or under, what the goal is, and then the average. All of this auto calculates. But this is what this looks like in action. And this is just the rest of that, right? So you see here, they start going into monthly indicators from the weekly. And some of those monthly ones that are here, the average number of days for your turnovers, occupancy rate percentage, right? Including your unlisted properties, average days on market. And then at the bottom here, you see the business owner has a couple, and the bottom one is the DLER, the direct labor efficiency ratio. The goal for this company is 4.7. We got them to a strong number already, and their goal for the rest of the year was 4.7. So what KPI will you implement first, or what will you change? I encourage you to identify one thing, one action step from what we've reviewed, right? And that might just be to time block 2 hours to review your KPIs, to review the slide deck that we're going to send you, and to make a decision of what you want to do about it, right? Where are you not happy in your business? What needs to be improved? And what KPI could you change or add in order to get there? Well, what this looks like in action, and just taking it a step further, is if you are interested, we launched our Who Crew group coaching and masterminds for property managers, I think 3 or 4 months ago now. We have 99 people, so you could be the 100th today. We have 99 people in the Who Crew, and this is group coaching and masterminds. So a little bit about the program: we do weekly live group coaching calls. So that's every Thursday. We go over either team, system, profit, or growth. These are the 4 pillars to your business. And these topics rotate. We have a different topic. You're invited to every single one of those. High value attributed to that. You also get masterminds. So we break down our mastermind groups into, and you only get placed into the ones that are applicable to you. So there's foundation or freedom for business owners. Freedom mastermind is for the business owners who are only working or only having to work 20% of their time in their business. They've achieved what they believe to be freedom in their business, right? And then we have other business owners that are working towards that, and foundation mastermind. BDM integrator AI, I lead the AI mastermind. And then also I work with Jessica Foster, one of our head coaches, on the BDM mastermind. And you also get one of your key team members to join as well. And they get placed not in one of the business owner masterminds, but one of the other masterminds. Total value there, $19.97. This is Scott Hawker, one of our clients, right? Clarity, accountability, a real game plan. He's in Colorado. Andrew Fiddler, he loves engaging with like-minded professionals, right? It's hard to find a strong peer group. My father-in-law, he told me, and I later realized it wasn't him that came up with this phrase, but tell me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are, right? I don't know who came up with that, but I know it wasn't him because I researched it afterwards, but I thought he was really smart when I met him. And Jerry, if you're watching this, I still think you're really smart. On-demand courses, tools, and resources. So all the stuff that we do and teach, all of this is in one place. This is in a community app. All of our ebooks, courses, videos, case studies, reports, anywhere from leadership training and time blocking, time management, priority management, mindset, business planning, quarterly projects, fee implementation. All of these things are included, and they are segmented so that they're easy to find, and you don't have to just go through a bunch of content. You can find what you need and when you need it. This is from all of the years my business partner Matthew and I have been putting together this content. Private community and app. mobile friendly. There's actually a mobile app that you would get on your phone. Just some of the results here from some of our clients. And yes, and Betty Who, we will be launching. We were supposed to launch a couple months ago. Betty who is our exclusive AI powered coach, who will just at the beginning, she'll be able to document your policies and stop the constant interruptions, and then allow your teams to just ask Betty. So Betty is an AI powered coach where she'll ask you the questions about your, document all these things. We've already programmed her to do this. We're going to launch her and give free access to everyone in the Who crew. And we're going to be launching her, I think, middle of next month. They got pushed back a couple months, a little frustrating, but this is software. We have a great partner in building that for us, and you'll get free access to Betty Who. And then once she stores all that information, your team, right, when they ask you all of those questions that they continue to ask you, like, hey, how do I handle if a tenant paid rent late, or how many people can apply to one of our properties, right? Instead of just them asking you, ask Betty, ask Betty, ask Betty, and they'll have access to the app, or they just ask the question and Betty will give the responses. So free access to Betty. I mean, a ton of value. I already told you can bring a team member. So you get 2 seats to the group coaching and masterminds. You get 2 seats, not just for you, but one for one of your team members. It doesn't matter if you're brand new. We have someone who's I think I saw Yessie in here. Yessie started her property management company at the beginning of this year with 0 properties, and she's at 65 right now. 65, brand new. But you don't just have to be brand new. I mean, some of the people in the Who crew have hundreds or thousands of doors, right? I've been doing this for a while, so it doesn't matter where you're at. Smart growth shouldn't have to feel like guesswork. And here's the good news too. Only $497 a month. We have KPI training. We talk about KPIs in our meetings, in our group coaching. We also have on-demand courses on KPIs. I think we just built a resource, and I think that's on here too. 5 steps to implementing KPIs in your business. So all of these things are cataloged. And even better news, today, and no joke, this is at midnight. This will not be available anymore. But for today only, if you sign up and you put in that promo code TWC250 off, you will get half off your first month. We're so confident. And here's the good news. You can cancel anytime. You probably won't, but you can cancel anytime. If you're not happy after the first month, if you don't feel like the value that that you're going to get just from being around, whether it's the right peer group, right? Because we're all communicating together in the app, or whether it's from the on-demand courses or the masterminds or the weekly live group coaching, or just from having one of your key team members plugged in and being able to access this type of information when they need it. It's honestly a no-brainer. We hope that everybody on here that's not already in the Who crew joins. But if you already are in the Who crew, hello. Let me see in the chat. Great. Yeah, thanks, Shu. Appreciate that. So yeah, there's the code there. Any questions that anyone has on KPIs? Anything that we covered? Or the Who crew? Someone unmuted themselves? Does someone have a question? that
The-
on
the-
me?
We have a question in the chat, Jay. From Chris.
Where is it?
Are you looking at the renewal rate for just that month or trending amount over 3 months or something like that?
Hold on, let me go to the question so I can see it. Okay, I see it. Are you looking at the renewal rate for just that month or trending amount over 3 months? So renewal rate you would track on a month, it would be reported on a monthly basis, and that is something that you would look at monthly. When you're looking at it, it's going to be in one place, and you'll see, okay, January, this was January's number, this was February's number, this is March's number. So you'll be able to see what the trend has been. But great question. Yeah. Questions about anything KPI related or on the Who crew. What happens is if you join the Who crew, you will get an email right away as soon as you sign up online. You can scan that code, or there's a link in the chat, and you get that email, and then you will get an invite to the first session for you, and then also an onboarding call. So that onboarding call is live. We have one of our consultants run that so that they can take you and anyone else who is new or wants to get reacclimated to what we have to offer. You'll get all of that. So not only do you get the access to these things, but we show you how to access them, and we make it easy, right? Because we all only have a certain amount of time, but we have goals. And in order to achieve our goals, we need to have time. So we understand how valuable that is. Any other questions? I can't see any. And I am 2 minutes under. And I know that when I point this way, I'm pointing to the PowerPoint. So I learned those two things today. If you learned something today, then I did my job. If you learned something today, just put in the chat something like yay or thank you or anything like that. That'll make me feel better, and just treat other people nice for the rest of the day. All right. Thanks guys for stopping by. Yes, you're welcome. And hope to see some of you in the Who crew join in. You're welcome, Michelle. Appreciate you. Thanks, guys. Awesome. Have a great day.